Warning, this video is unscripted. The jacket is back because. So say it's the 1980s, late 1980s or early 1990s, and you've always wanted to be able to write your letters as a document, save them to a floppy disk to edit later, but you've never been able to afford one of these newfangled personal computers. Well, Smith Corona has got you covered with this. This bad boy is the Smith Corona PWP-3200. It is a typewriter that has a very large LCD display and, most importantly, a floppy disk drive. Let's take a look at it. Alright, so let's get into it. Obviously, this was a Goodwill find, as you can see by the sticker. I've had this for a number of years, and you'll see a great example of that in just a moment. So, really, all this is a daisy wheel printer, and we'll look a bit more at that in a bit. But it's a daisy wheel printer which has been integrated into a typewriter chassis with a floppy disk drive and a very basic computer. And, well, first, let's turn it on. Most typewriters don't turn on like this. All right, so now we're in. So immediately what you get is you get this word processing display. You'll notice that there's a switch here that says type and word processing. We're on word processing now. So when I type stuff, which is going to be hard to do with where you are as the camera, you'll see it appears on the screen. The typewriter is not actually typing anything. Now the beautiful thing about this is that you can write documents on the screen before you even print it. And it warns you if you've made a typo. It doesn't think typo is a word, so once you hit the space bar, it beeps you to tell you you may want to rethink that. Also, this is unique to Smith Corona, apparently. These functions, word eraser, there's a registered trademark thing on there, so I'm guessing there's some special feature. If you hit word eraser, it just deletes that entire word. And if you hit code and hit the same key, it will erase the entire line. But what we're really here for is the word processing functions. So, on the right-hand side is a floppy disk drive. Now, I'm using what used to be Microsoft Works because the floppy disk drive on here can only read 800 kilobyte formatted floppies. So any disk that has been formatted as a high-density disk, it can't read because the read-write head is not strong enough to overwrite the high-density disk. So if you had an unformatted high-density disk, it could use it, but if it's ever been formatted, it won't work. So this was one of very few 800 kilobyte non-high-density disks I had, and I am not in need of Microsoft Works for the Apple Macintosh, so I went ahead and used this. So with it in the floppy drive, to get to what's on the disk, all these little menu items here, you can see they have an underscored letter. To access them, you hit select and hit that letter. So we're going to go to the disk menu, which is select D. And weirdly, you hear it access the floppy, but it hasn't actually done anything yet. You actually have to select save, recall, erase, rename, join directory, or other. So we're going to hit recall. And now it brings up a directory of what is on the disk to be recalled. So, just so that way you can see how much of a dork I am, I'm going to pull up this file, and first it's going to warn me, we have text in memory, do we want to keep it or not? No. This was a homework assignment. When I was in my senior year of high school, I believe that was the year I got this. I'm such a dork that I did some of my homework assignments on this machine. So if you want to just read this, this is just so incredibly, it's not great. But it shows you the power of a machine like this. Now, sadly, and I bet a lot of people who bought these machines were very disappointed in this. The actual computer, I have no idea what system this is, but it is incredibly slow. if we want to just scroll through this, it has to redraw line by line, and it is not fast. If we hit code and the down arrow, it will redraw the entire screen, but even that, this is not fast at all. This is very, very slow. So yeah, it's useful in that you can review an entire document before you print it, but this is not at all what I'd consider to be ideal of any sort. Want to take a look at my writing when I was in high school? There we go. So how does it actually type stuff? Or print stuff, I should say. Well, first I'm gonna actually reboot it here, so I'm just gonna shut it off because I want to show you what's underneath. So this here is the daisy wheel. This is how it's actually typing. Each one of these little fins has a engraving on it that it uses to punch onto the actual writing surface. This is sort of similar to the IBM Selectric golf ball type thing, but nowhere near as, well, honestly, nowhere near as interesting. And also, these are plastic, and I'm always a little curious on how long these actually last. You can see there's a registration point here, and the idea with using the daisy wheels is you could change the typeface or the font of what exactly it's typing. So the daisy wheel just rests in here, and then it will automatically catch. And this here is the ribbon that it uses to type with. I do not have correction tape for this machine, so it's just what it is. Sadly, it won't let you print anything with the cover open, so I'll have to close it. We'll get a better angle for you. Just like any typewriter, you load it up with paper before you begin. It's got markings here for what various different paper sizes. The unlabeled one, which continues through here, is going to be your standard letter paper in the US. So with this machine, if we switch to typewriter mode, which I've just moved the switch into, now it will go as you type. So if I start typing words, and I can't spell typing, so it beeped at me. You can see, hopefully, that those words are appearing on the page. I don't have any correction tape in here, otherwise I could go and actually correct it back. If I hit word eraser, it will attempt to erase it. But there's no actual correction tape in there, so it's not doing anything. But the thing is, let me move this up a little bit. We're going to go back into word processing mode. And I will call up that homework assignment. So this option here is to print. So if we select to print the document, it gives you the option to set up, which I believe changes margins and stuff like that, but we're just going to go with the standard and hit print, and it'll fire away. I lied. First, it's going to ask us if we want to do the entire document or multiple copies, so we can do, just giving you a little, it's pretty self-explanatory, but we're just going to hit return. Okay, so I hit delete to stop the print, but as you can see, it can type faster than anyone could actually type, though honestly not a lot faster. So of course it's doing it with 100% accuracy, but if you use this thing and you were printing out an 8-9 page letter, that process is going to be a few minutes probably. I would not be surprised if this takes well over 2 minutes to print one page, which isn't exactly fast. So we'll get a little bit closer here. Oh my goodness. See? Oh my goodness. Oh, I hit caps lock. See, if I had done that on a regular typewriter, now we would be deep into the woods. But let's just go ahead and show you. Remember how I was saying that it's slow? Oh my goodness, it's very slow. So say I want to erase if you want to be sure and the T. So in order to do that, I could press and hold backspace, or I could hit the word eraser key. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. I'm going to hit it 7 times and watch how long it takes it to actually process that. We're still going. Yeah, that's not exactly what I'd call fast. I don't know about you, but that seems really painful, actually. But to continue with this little demonstration, if we select disk, what we can do is we can save this. And it just wants you to give it a name. And I still have, oh, that's an interesting point. We'll get back to that in a second. I'm just going to call it name HJ. And now it's saved. So if we go back to the disk menu, we can recall something. We'll recall palindrome. Going to dismiss what's in memory because we saved it to the disk. I really don't know what this document is, but now we can go back to what we were working on. Gonna have to scroll down to get to it though. Again, we'll erase what's in memory. And now, there we're back to what we were doing. Now obviously, if you had an actual computer, this would be a lot easier and faster. But if you had a limited budget, these were being sold up until at the very latest, or at the very earliest, 1993, I saw a listing for these for sale, and they were less than $300. So if you were on a tight budget and you wanted to be able to have many of the features of a word processor but didn't have your own computer, something like this might actually be a pretty good idea. What I wanted to go back to was, if you saw when I was saving the file name, it was inserting special characters even though I was just touching numbers. Now, that's because this emulates the way the caps lock key works on older typewriters. A couple odd things about the keyboard you may notice are that comma, it's got 2 commas on there. Rather than having a special character and the comma like you'd expect today, this is 2 commas, just as this is 2 periods. That's because on older typewriters, it wasn't caps lock, it was shift lock. And that's why this key, the default is simply lock. Caps lock is an option. So if I hit lock, and unfortunately the light in the key does not work, you'll see that I type. No, apparently I haven't actually turned it on. There we go. So as I type, it's all capital letters, but the period and comma stay period and comma because there's 2 of them. But anytime I hit a number, I'm going to get a special character because I don't have caps lock on, I have shift lock on. So now every key is shifted. That's because in the days of manual typewriters like this, when you hit shift, the entire carriage is lowered. That's actually why it's called the shift key, because it shifts the carriage down. And you can see when you get close up that the capital letters are all on the, well, let's see, I should actually look before I do a close up. Okay. So the capital letters are all at the top of each of these strikers, which means that when it's shifted down, the top is what hits the paper. When it's not shifted, the bottom is what hits the paper. And because the platen is curved, even when you're, the top will miss the paper because it's farther away from it. So on a typewriter like this, when you engage shift lock, which is this button here, it simply holds the carriage in the down position. So if you were to type anything, it would always be the top of the row because you're going to have shift lock engaged. The typewriter, because this is mechanical, it can't decide to only print numbers as numbers. It's going to hit exclamation point, quotation, number sign, dollar sign, percent sign, etc. Just as it's going to hit the @ sign versus the cent sign over here. And yes, @ keys were on typewriters like this. That is not something that Emil created. Emil uses the @ key because it was a key nobody used. So I hope you enjoyed this video into the Smith Corona PWP-3200 personal word processor. Thanks so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed the video. Of course, thank you to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon. If you're interested in joining the Patreon supporters out there, please feel free to check out this link. I'm going to have a lot more videos coming soon. I finally got able to clear out a bunch of my obligations, and what you see behind me is nearly complete. And you'll be seeing the full extent of it in the next video. Thanks for watching.